So hi guys, my name is Sean, as Sander said, and I'm a content strategist here at Foleon. I'm in charge of our brand messaging, our tone of voice, our content calendar, and a whole lot of other stuff to make sure that we get our message out there, that we get noticed by the masses, that people understand the value of our platform. And one of the ways that I do that is that I produce a lot of content that I hope our target audience finds interesting. And so I'm going to be talking about content marketing, a little bit about how it works, a little bit about where it's going in the future, and a little bit, I hope, about how you can make your content marketing better. Does that sound good? By the way, how many people are like content marketers here? She asked that question too, but I didn't see. So like 2 people. Wow, awesome. Okay, like 3. So for you it'll be super relevant, and for the rest of you it's going to be like enlightening. Yeah. Okay. So be prepared. So content. Oh, I need to use this clicker. There we go. Content. What is content? This word means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And that's because it means a lot of different things. A lot of things can be content. Most people, they think of, well, blog posts and news articles and videos on YouTube. But it's really a lot more than that, isn't it? In fact, did you know that the web pretty much exists because of content? Everything on the web is content. If there were no content, we wouldn't need internet connections. I mean, content is your email. It's WhatsApp messages. It's messages you get on Snapchat. It's photos you see on Instagram. It is everything that you consume while you're online. And if it's everything you consume while you're online, that opens up a whole new realm that content marketers don't usually think of. I mean, what about movies you watch on Netflix, or music you listen to on Spotify, right? Or books you download to your Kindle? All of this is online content. But of course, movie producers, authors, musicians, companies like Netflix and HBO, they specialize in content, right? That's their bread and butter. That's their primary business activity. So then why are companies like ours creating content? Like software producers and other companies. Why are we producing content? Why is every company, pretty much in every industry, putting more and more of their budget into content creation? Why are content marketers so in demand and well paid? Why did, of all companies, MailChimp, you guys all know MailChimp, why did they just release their own mini-series? Have you guys seen this, by the way? Anybody here? Have you seen it? It's pretty cool, huh? Yeah. So, well, it comes down to content marketing, right? I mean, a while ago, it's been a while now, some smart people figured out that we could leverage the internet's appetite for content to market our products and services. It's actually pretty easy to do. All you have to do is produce some content that people like, and they become aware of your brand at the same time. And they start to see you as an authority in an area. And then maybe down the road, when they're ready to buy something, they think of you, they remember you. So it's a way to sell your products and services, but indirectly, right? So I'm going to show you an example for those of you who are not content marketers, which is, I think, 90% of the room. So I'll give you a good example. River pools is one of the earliest great examples of content marketing. They were a swimming pool company. Has anyone heard of them? Awesome. Nobody. I can tell this story and it'll be fun. They were struggling during the recession. And the guy behind the company, he decided to start blogging. And blogging. And he just started answering the most common questions that people had about their swimming pools. Just, very practical stuff. And also questions about buying swimming pools. And after a while, his blog became the best place to find information about swimming pools. If you wanted to know something, that's the go-to place to find out about swimming pools. And as a result, he became a recognizable name, and people down the road, when they were thinking of buying a swimming pool, well, that was the obvious place that they went to because he became an authority in that area. People began to trust him, and so they bought from him too. And this is the classic model of content marketing, right? You produce content that is not intended to sell necessarily, but is intended to educate people or even to entertain people. And in the process, you attract customers, potential customers who might down the road buy something from you. Because when they are reading your educational and entertaining content, for one thing, they find out you exist, right? That's already a huge win. And second, they start to associate your company with a topic. And third, they remember you when they're ready to make a purchase decision. So this is content marketing 101. So it's kind of in a nutshell how it works. You know, you think of a topic like no code, and you think of Betty blocks. You think of a topic like SEO, and you think of Moz, for example. So it's a way to sell indirectly, and it's extremely effective. But the question is, and the reason we're having this talk right now, is does it still work in 2019? Because content marketing has been figured out now, right? Everybody is doing it. I mean, like, there are no topics that have not yet been written about. There are over 1 billion blogs on the web today. Let that sink in for a minute. Like, there's nothing that you can write that has not already been written about, pretty much, unless you're very, very creative, okay? So if you want your content to get noticed, it needs to be better than all the other content. But it's even worse than that, okay? So that's not the bad news yet. It's much worse than that. Because most companies, when they're doing content marketing or they're starting with it, they think, well, we're competing with the other companies in our industry, right? Well, no, there's more than that. You're competing with all the content that's on the web that's fighting for your audience, right? I mean, when you're doing content marketing, what are you actually fighting for? What are you trying to get? Attention, exactly. The battle is for attention. And that means that you're not just competing with other blogs, you're competing with all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff that are attracting attention away. Let me give you some examples, just a few examples of what people are spending their time online doing, right? 10 hours per week on average. The average person is watching Netflix. Now, most people think Netflix is not our competitor. They have nothing to do with it. But if you're doing content marketing, Netflix is very much your competitor, because if people are not interested enough in your blog post or your video or whatever, they're watching Netflix, then they're not reading your blog, right? So this is a big one. Okay, what about Fortnite? It's my favorite. 6 to 10 hours per week. That's a lot. I mean, this is a sensation, right? This is the most popular game in history right now. It's like exploded, 250 million people play it. And you might think, oh, it's just kids, right? No, it's adults. It's a lot of adults. At least 48% are adults, and likely part of your target audience. And the time they spent playing Fortnite is the time that they're not online reading your sales or marketing material that you've worked very hard on. And a fun fact about this is among the adults that were surveyed, over 6% of them admitted to skipping out on work to play Fortnite. So next time you say you're working from home, manage expectations. Some people are too lazy to play video games. They just like to watch it. Twitch is a streaming platform where people watch other people play video games. How many people have heard of Twitch? Oh, wow. Less than half. Okay, wow. It kind of came out of nowhere, didn't it? Did you know that Twitch is now more popular than Netflix? There are more active users watching Twitch than Netflix. I mean, it is massive. It is massive. And you guys didn't even know about it. Huh. And of course, the most embarrassing statistic that'll blow your mind, 5.5 billion hours in 1 year. I mean, that's roughly equal to 600,000 years of video content consumed in 1 year on one site. So when I was listing types of content earlier, how many of you thought of pornography? It's okay, you don't have to raise your hand. Let me just find where I am here. So there's so much content, so many ways for people to spend their time. The question becomes then, how do you compete? I mean, if you're managing a blog, how do you compete with porn, right? No, you don't have to answer that either. A better question, how do you create content that people will pay attention to in this new world? That's the question. Because, let me throw another thing into the mix. The competition is not just more fierce than ever. People's habits are changing as well when it comes to what content they select and what content they consume. People are shying away from long-form content more and more. People skim more. People only read headlines. You have very little time to grab people's attention. And part of that is because our brains are changing due to the amount of input that we're exposed to. I mean, the average person is getting bombarded all day long with messages and notifications, Slack, WhatsApp, email, phone calls, whatever, all fighting for your attention, all pulling your brain in different directions. And on top of that, you probably have music playing all day. You have advertisements. The average person sees, I don't know how many thousands of advertisements every day. You probably have kids at home, some of you. Meetings to go to-do lists. I mean, your brain is scattered. And your consumers' brains are scattered too. I mean, it's gotten so bad. It's gotten to the point where when we do have some space, when we do have some silence finally, that we feel compelled to fill it up. It's like we can't just be quiet. It's like we need to turn on the TV or listen to a podcast or just like scroll through our Facebook feed without seeing anything. It's like we just can't stop. It's a noisy world, and our brains are suffering, actually. Our attention spans are getting shorter. Consumers, they struggle to focus and they struggle to engage in deep thought. And this has tremendous impact on how we need to move forward with content marketing. Because nowadays you only have a couple seconds to grab people's attention. Literally, like if she's your customer, you got to figure out a way to like pull her in, right? How do you do that? I'm going to tell you, don't worry. Which one should we choose? Yeah, you can give up. Actually, funny story. My dad is a business owner too, my father. And he's kind of in between these. He's in the denial phase right now. He is of the opinion that people should read more and they should read better. Direct quote. And so he still writes very, very long paragraphs on his website and in his emails, like detailed descriptions, very well written, by the way. It's funny, though. People call him all day long, write him emails, asking him those same questions. And that, it's clearly on the website. And he goes crazy. Why don't people just read? So this is the truth. He has failed to accept the fact that the behavior has changed. People don't read anymore. They skim. They read the headlines, and they move very quickly. So the only other option, if we want to continue to be relevant, if we want our brands to be recognized and remembered, is that we need to adapt to the way that modern internet users are consuming content. If you think about the previous examples I showed, like Netflix and Twitch, what do they all have in common? Why are they so successful? Video. Yeah. video, engaging. Yeah.
More creative.
Easy to digest.
Yeah.
Easy access.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, all of those are basically right. First of all, they're all visual. They're all visual forms of content, and they're very easy to digest, indeed, easy to access. They take very little cognitive energy. They don't require you to think. They're passive. You don't have to spend a lot of energy. You know, reading takes a lot of energy. So one of the solutions in breaking through the noise is to leverage more visual content. And I'm going to quickly go through 3 very tangible problems that have arisen in recent years due to people's change in habits. And I'm going to show you how you can use visual content to overcome these obstacles. The first problem is a simple truth, unfortunately. Humans are fundamentally lazy. It's always been the case, and I think it's probably getting worse. And you know, it takes a lot of energy to activate your neocortex, the smart part of your brain, that one. 90% of the information that comes into our brains is visual. But it takes a lot more energy to process textual information than it does to process imagery and visuals. And so what can you do to overcome this is to, wherever you can, use an image or a graphic instead of a paragraph of text. Because when you do this, you make it so your visitors don't need to spend as much energy. And if they don't need to spend energy, they're more likely to pay attention. They're more likely to stay and to look. If you can communicate the same thing using an image instead of text, do it. Always do it. Let me show you an example of what this can look like. This is an image I made. I'm not a designer, so it's kind of rudimentary. But you know, at Foleon, we present ourselves as a responsive alternative to PDFs, right? You maybe know that. Maybe you saw the sign over here. But you know, I could write or tell you a long paragraph about how PDFs, they're not responsive, they don't take advantage of digital text reflow, their fixed layout is incompatible with different viewport sizes, and you would probably zone out. You know, what does that mean? I don't know. Or I could just show you the picture. It's like instantly clear, right? You're like, oh yeah, you're right. You kind of got to zoom in to be able to read that, and you have to pan around to read the text. And so the image can bring clarity where people don't have time or don't want to engage the effort in reading text. You just show them the picture. Just show them the picture and they get it. It's like, aha. And this is an extremely successful picture for us because people are like, oh, now I get why the problem with PDFs. It's hard to read. Okay. So the second problem, the average visitor only reads 25% of the text on a page. So if that's true, how do you make sure that your visitors are getting the most important point? Like, assuming your page has like one very important point you want to get across to them, how do you make sure that out of the 25% of stuff they see, that the important stuff is in there? You need to find a way to stop them in their tracks, because people are skimming, right? They're just glancing and they're moving on to the next thing really quickly. So how do you get them to stop and really look? Again, visual content is the answer here. Put your value proposition in an image whenever you can, or in a GIF, or in a video, or something visual, because that allows them to process it so much quicker. You can get that idea in their head before they leave. You know, even if they do leave, you planted that idea in their head. A really quick example of one way to do this, we recently built an integration with Zapier, which is really cool for us. Kind of a complicated thing, but we wanted to tell our customers about it and tell our prospects about it, like a marketing thing. It's exciting news, but it's kind of a hard thing to explain. How do you explain to people about API connections and sending data, from one platform to another platform with the third-party integration? And so we wrote a blog post about it, but we figured, a lot of people are not going to understand this. They're not going to take the time to read through it. They're probably just going to be scared off by the title, right? But how can we get the value of this awesome new thing that we built across to them? Well, we put it in an image. And so we just created a very simple image that you can just glance at and be like, okay, I use that. Hey, I use that thing too. Oh, wow, cool. It works. Like, that's all we wanted to communicate. You can now connect this to all this other stuff. And I see some people with their eyebrows furrowed, so maybe it's not as clear as I thought it was. But you get the idea, right? As much as you can, try to put your most important points in a visual, because if that's all people see, then at least they will have gotten the key point. So the third problem, and this is really depressing, especially if you're a blogger. People typically only remember 10% of what they read 3 days later. It's pathetic, right? It's like, holy crap. No? Well, I think it's really sad, but that's because I write a lot. So, luckily, studies show that you can increase that number to 65% by just doing one thing, by including relevant imagery. And it can be any kind of imagery, as long as it's supporting what is written. So it can be photos, but it can also be charts or graphs or some kind of video, anything that reinforces what is being written. You can increase that number to 65%. Okay, so by now I hope you guys have had a light bulb moment. You're like, holy crap, visual content, this is what we need. This is like not for the future, this is for now. If I want to be noticed, if I want to be remembered, if I want my brand to actually, people to remember it, then I need to be using visual content. But how do I do it? Well, first of all, it needs to be a mind shift, a mindset change in marketing departments for every company, for all of us. And we're learning this in Foleon right now. We're slowly evolving, we're slowly getting there. But you need to think, in every campaign you run, with every blog post that you publish, with every email that you send, you need to think, okay, how am I reaching lazy people who don't want to read and who would rather be playing a video game? If you make that your target audience, make that your approach to everything you do and everything you write, you're going to reach a lot more people. People will get your message that you're trying to communicate. That's kind of a sad trend that you need to do that, right? At least I think so, but we're adapting here. We're on the adapt side. Remember, we decided to adapt and not give up? Okay. So what are some practical things? So like, what are you supposed to do now? What can you take away from this talk? Besides, you need to use more visuals. Well, some of them I already mentioned. Use an image or video instead of a paragraph wherever you can. Always do this. Whenever you can, if you think, oh, I can say this in a picture, do it. Good tip. Always put the main point you're trying to communicate, so the value that the people are going to get out of it, because that's all they're interested in is what they're going to get out of it. Show it to them. Don't tell them. Show it to them. Always include relevant imagery, charts, graphs, photos, whatever, because people remember more if you do that. But another thing you can do, especially if you're writing long-form content, like thought leadership content, for example, white paper, stuff like that, break up your text as much as possible with a lot of images. I mean, that sounds like a lot, right? Every 100 words, that's a lot. But a massive study recently of over 1 million articles showed that articles that do this get shared twice as much as articles with fewer images. So, do you want to be effective? It works. Finally, you got to invest in video. If you're not already doing it, now is the time. You need more video. That's what people want. I know you like that, right? Yeah. Well, okay, 53% of consumers say they want to see more videos from the brands that they support. And did you know that just adding the word video to your subject line in an email, it increases your open rate by 19% and your click-through rate by 65%? Just adding that one word. That's crazy, huh? And 40% of marketers, they say that video has been the most successful form of marketing content for them. So it's a big deal. There's a lot more to say about visual content and why you should use it, but I'll leave it at that. It's a noisy world. And what you have to remember is that visual snacks are the favorite food of the internet. Okay, they're the most likely to drive engagement, to get shared, and to result in action. And if you start leveraging visual content more, you're going to get more engagement, you're going to get more traffic, you're going to get more attention, and you're going to get more results. Thank you.